keynote speaker, Silvia Argueta, Executive Director of the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. Silvia has devoted her career to achieving equal justice using direct representation, civil litigation, and policy. She's also a proud NCYL alumna, having previously served as a law clerk. Today at the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, Silvia is leading their charge to promote access to justice, strengthen communities, fight discrimination, and effect systemic change. Prior to joining the Legal Aid Foundation in 1999, she was a staff attorney at MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, where she worked on education, employment, and immigration issues. And prior to that, at the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union Foundation of Southern California. She earned her law degree from UC Hastings College of Law and her BA in political science and French from UCLA. We'll have time after Silvia speaks for her to answer some of your questions. So please send any questions you have for Silvia in the chat. Silvia, we are so grateful to have you as part of our alumni network, and thank you for helping kick off our summer series.
Thank you so much, Elida. I am so very honored to join you this afternoon. It's all in the family, having been at NCYL quite a while ago. I'm just so happy to be with you and to know that one of my mentors is on your board, Mona Tao Tao. She's simply amazing. This day is to welcome, and what a powerful poem, Javen. Thank you for that. I am so honored to welcome this class and all of the other summer students that may have joined from other organizations. I have a few messages for you. First, you're so diverse and so wonderful. And I'm so glad that you chose to do this work this summer when you have so many options available to you. Your work today will impact youth that you work with and meet this summer, and thousands that you may never meet, but whose lives you have changed because of what you're going to do this summer. I hope you come to this work with a sense of anger. Yep, I said it, anger. Anger that young people are not receiving the education, healthcare, basic rights that so many take for granted. You work with youth. So many of them, it feels like, are under attack. I tell all new lawyers at LAFLA when they come in our summer class, I want you to do this work because you're outraged and angered, and I'll explain. I don't want you to be in any of this work that you do, whether at LAFLA, at NCYL, anywhere else, because you want to do good. God bless the do-gooders, and I mean that. I don't mean anything negative, but that's not why we should be doing this work. You should do this work because, as I said, you're outraged, kind of foaming at the mouth, a little PO'd, that kids don't have adequate healthcare, education, that they're kept in cages, that they're introduced to a carceral system at a young age, that they don't have the support they need. So anger is good, but channel it. You have to channel that outrage and anger into action. And I think that's what NCYL does every single day. I think that's what those of us in the public interest community do every single day. My advice to you is, if you're thinking of a career in public interest law, or for the undergrads going to law school or doing other social justice work, it's simple. Go do it. Do it because you like it, because you care about it, because it's what gets you going in the morning. You can make change. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be immediate, but you can make change. Some of it may be large systemic shifts in our society that we desperately need. Some of it may be right or wrong, a righting or wrong for one individual person, but all of it is connected. All of it is important. It's important that you know that the direct service that is performed for clients that is done individually affects the systemic work that is then done by our organizations. One is so interrelated with the other, you cannot do it separately. It's important, very important, that you think about your work as always interconnected and interrelated, especially when you're working with other folks in the social justice movement. As you all know, our work is fundamentally about securing the promise of equal justice. Poverty should not be a barrier to attaining the most fundamental rights that I've discussed: housing, healthcare, protection from abuse for our foster youth, the conditions that keep them confined. Yet for too many of our clients, these fundamental rights are ones that we take for granted. They're simply out of reach for them, mostly because of racial and economic justice issues. As you all know, the pandemic, it's still going on, has laid bare these inequalities that disproportionately affect the Black, Latinx, and AAPI communities. These issues are the ones that are important for us to address. It was a beautiful moment in 2020 when folks marched and asked, demanded racial justice. But the time for us now is to continue to turn those demands into action. And you might say, well, I'm just one person in such a large society, and there's so many issues: police abuse, tons of things that are happening every day, gun violence that has visited our communities just so recently. But you can and should make change, because it's only when you are really striving to be client-centered, when you honor the innate value and dignity of every client, that you look at the structural inequalities that affect our clients' life circumstances, and that you recognize that this work requires you to work as hard as you can to be as effective as possible. That's what's important, because our clients who are poor, who are disenfranchised, deserve no less. Human compassion and empathy strengthen our work, and it makes us better advocates. Never let anyone tell you that it just can't be done. I've been in this business for over 30 years. In the business, I mean public interest law, and it challenges you. It makes you cry. It makes you sometimes pretty desperate to see what our clients are going through. But at the same time, I urge you to work with them, to give them their voice and agency. One of the things that's important in the work that you do is that you practice community lawyering, that you give voice and agency because of folks' lived experience. Now, I also know that many of you have lived experiences. Bring that to bear into the practice that you do if you're going to be the lawyer, or if for the undergrads, if you're going to go into any work that is a social justice work that you're doing beyond undergrad. For the lawyers, for the ones who are going to be lawyers, it's important that you bring your authentic self. Many of us who practice this work, we do it because we have lived experience. We've been through what our clients have been through. And if we haven't, maybe our family members have. It's important to always remember that and to keep that in mind as you do this work, because that's what allows you to look at your clients as the complete human beings that they are, not as a problem as some others see them. That's for bureaucracies, that's for government. But we who do this work, we look at clients and say, you know what? That could be me, because that could be you, or maybe that was you. I know that for my family and my lived experience, I'm an immigrant from Guatemala. I didn't learn how to speak English until I was 6 when I came to this country. My family faced discrimination in housing. We were on benefits. All of that has informed why I do what I do in my career. I never went to law school to make money. My parents weren't really pleased with that. But that's okay. They learned to love what I do, and they support what I do. And I'm so grateful to have had such a supportive family. But I do what I do because I did want to make change, because I understood all of the issues that my parents, my family had to live through, that sometimes some of them are still living through. And when I see a client, I look at them and say, that could be my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my cousin. I think it's important for you to bring that, to bring your whole self. I know it's hard, especially for those of you in law school. It's hard to go to law school. It drains you. It almost takes everything that you are and wants to put you into this little cubby hole of what you should be. But you're here, you're at NCYL because you believe in everything that they do. I love your new logo. I love your new word. Center youth with equity, dignity, and care. Exactly, center youth. They are and always should be at the forefront of everything that you do. because they deserve no less. They deserve a voice when you are discussing their cases with them, when you are looking at systemic change. It's what's important. Race equity doesn't exist in a vacuum. You have to practice it every single day. In the work that you do and the way you practice it is how you treat each other as colleagues, but also how you're working with your clients, ensuring that their voice is just as important as anyone else's in the room. That, I think, is what I've learned in the 30 plus years as a public interest lawyer, putting the client first and centering what they need and how we achieve what we need for them. That's what racial justice is about, racial equity for them. Our clients are going through so much more right now. As I mentioned, the pandemic did bring a lot of issues to the forefront. But all of you who've been doing this, and this is for the NCYL staff who have joined, you know that all the pandemic did was lay bare what you already knew, all of the inequities. But you continue to fight and you achieve so much every single day for your clients. And I think sometimes it's hard unless you pull back and look and see what did we accomplish? And never ever underestimate that even the smallest thing that you've done for a client has made a big change in their lives. You know, our clients are folks who the systems, the bureaucracies cast aside. NCYL and organizations like it are the ones who put them front and center and say, we hear you and we understand. And that's why our work is important as a community. We don't exist in silos. You know, I work for a direct legal aid organization. We see over 15,000 direct legal cases every year. We help over 100,000 people every year in different settings. But what's important is that we also know that NCYL is doing great work and that we can come to you and ask you for assistance on the broader systemic issues that we also want to discuss and implement for our clients. We know that all of our work is intertwined and that the social justice movement is really a canopy of many movements, whether it's the immigrant movement, the police abuse movement, the racial justice movements, all of that is important and intertwined. I think at times society or those in power want to compartmentalize us. Don't let that happen, because together we are stronger. Together we know how to find avenues to assist our clients each and every day. It is a beautiful community that all of you are joining, because we work together, we talk to each other. We don't compete, maybe sometimes for a grant, but we shouldn't. But we generally don't compete, because we know that that is the best way to ensure that we do not continue to do the best work for our clients, that instead we work together in tandem to ensure that whether you're doing systemic work, direct services work, or something in between, we have to ensure that we talk to each other, we work with each other every day. I know that for some of you, especially, I saw that your class is a beautiful class of summer clerks that is really diverse. And I know it can be hard, whether in undergrad or law school. Always be your authentic self, even when you're challenged. I am so honored to be able to speak to you today about this, because I think it's important for you to know that there is a whole community of public interest lawyers throughout the state, in the Bay Area, and everywhere that is here to support you. For all of us who do this work, we need each other. It doesn't matter. My friends in the Bay Area, I'm in Southern California, my friends in the Bay Area keep me going, help me with issues. We are a community. Sometimes it may feel we're far apart or we don't always agree on things. Who cares? We're still a community, and we can agree to disagree on how we approach a problem. But in the end, we're all approaching a problem to help our client communities. So always remember to give your clients agency and to listen to the community that you are working for and that you're privileged to serve, because it is a privilege. And with that, I think you will be able to be better advocates, whether as a lawyer or non-lawyer. You'll be able to do the work that our clients and communities need, because social justice doesn't come easy. Equity, fundamental rights need to be protected now more than ever. They're under attack by the courts. And we have to present a united front in order to be able to meet those challenges. And you are part of that. always, now that you've joined NCYL, wherever you go after NCYL, you will still be a part of this community. And I hope that you remember that. That's why today was special to me. And I was a bit nervous about it because to be invited back to a place that I worked with a whole year as a clerk, work study. Thank you very much for that, for my last year in law school. Very important for me to, all the lessons that the lawyers I was fortunate enough to work with at NCYL, I still remember and I carry with me. And I'm so grateful for the legacy of NCYL and its 50+ years in seeking justice for youth, centering youth, centered youth, centering youth. What a beautiful way to rebrand yourselves. And for that, I'm grateful. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Silvia. I want to encourage folks to either highlight in the chat some of your takeaways and also to please feel free to pose any questions for Silvia. I'll start with a couple of takeaways. I think my favorite was be angry and turn those demands into action. I really appreciate that you underscored for people to lift up their lived experience and be their authentic self. And use that strength to inform the work. And of course, to remember always that our work is interconnected with each other's work in social justice, that this is a canopy of many movements intertwined, and not to let them compartmentalize us, but rather to continue to look out for each other's work. We have a couple of questions to start with. I wanted, one of the questions that came through was whether you can share a bit more about some of the mentors and the people that inspired you in your career.
Absolutely. So I mentioned one, Mona. Mona Tao was someone who I met when I externed for a federal judge, Judge Consuelo Marshall, and Mona was her clerk, one of her law clerks. Ever since then, I've kept in touch with Mona. She has really been a North Star in terms of the work that she does. Just the empathy and the intellect that she brings to everything that she does, and the compassion that she exhibits when working with those of us who are new, and the continued keeping in touch. And I think that's important. Stay in touch with people who mentor you. My relationship with Mona is now like 31 years old. Because we've kept in touch, and I know that I can pick up a phone and call her and just get advice. And I've had that, all the time. And I think that especially as a woman of color, it has been so needed in my career. And it's been important to know that I could reach out to her. When I began working as an attorney, I was very fortunate. I worked at a public interest law firm called Litton Stormer, mostly attorneys of color, but really a network of wonderful people that I've kept in touch with, that I've worked with. I also think you should always go back to your former employers. So Judge Marshall has always been a part of my decision-making when I've switched jobs. Should I take this offer? What do you think of that offer? Really important work. And then other mentors that I've had, and they are not always the folks who have supervised me or worked with me. My colleagues have mentored me in being a better lawyer, a better person in the work that we do. And I think it's about maintaining relationships when you leave one job to the next. Keep that relationship. It's important. Much easier now with the advent of social media. But I also think important to make real connections with people. Your work will speak volumes and people respond to that. And I think it's important to ensure that you have people that you trust. I can tell you, I can't tell you I have a ton of mentors, but the ones I have are gems. And it's because I've cultivated that relationship throughout the years. So I hope that answers that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's such an important reminder, especially when you're the first in your family. I think often many of us will internalize this idea of like, oh, I don't want to bother this very important person. And it's so important to stay connected to your mentors and keep reaching back. Another question that we came through was you alluded to understanding how challenging it can be both in undergrad and in law school as an underrepresented person, as well as the emotional aspects of the work. What nourishing or wellness routines have you built in to have such a longevity in your career as a public interest lawyer?
Well, I wish I could tell you that I nourish myself more than I do. But I think that, to me, my family centers me. So I don't have any kids, but I have three nieces, and they're like my kids, but I don't do the other part of parenting. So kudos to all the parents. I think it's finding also time for myself. I read a lot, and sometimes I buy a ton of books and they just stack up, and I say I don't have time because work is so important. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. So I really want to advise you, take a step back for yourself always. I have really good friends. I would say I have 5 friends in this world who I love dearly because they take care of me. They're the ones who are able to say, you know what, no, today we're going to go do this instead of you having to go in on a Saturday to the office. And I think it's important to calibrate your time so that you really do take time for yourself. I know earlier I said you have to work hard. This is hard work, and our clients deserve that. But you know what? You need to take care of yourself. And that's a lesson I didn't learn, honestly, until a few years ago. I was go, 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 and I was completely burnt out. I was fortunate enough to qualify and get 3 months sabbatical from work in 2019. And thank God for that, because I don't know how I would have made it through the pandemic without having the luxury of taking 3 months off from work, where I really had no contact with my work. And it felt weird for a week. After the first week, I was good to go. I was like, LAFLA? Nope, not thinking about it. And I think, I'm not telling you, you can all have 3 months sabbaticals. I hope you all get that chance, but I think you need to take time to step back, whether it's a day, a week, or vacation. And for those of you who are in leadership positions, you have to model that for your staff, because if you don't, and you say, take a vacation, but you're working 7 days a week, that's not good modeling. So you too have to calibrate yourselves, because in terms of mentorships, people watch you. And I've learned that. I've learned that from my staff. And I think that there are always these teachable moments about taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. You need to restore yourself in order to be able to have something to give. Another question that we got was in your current role, what is the most rewarding aspect of what you do, and what are some of the biggest challenges that you face?
The most rewarding, honestly, is, and I brag about my staff all the time, is watching the staff of LAFLA every single day. They come in and they're passionate, they fight. I get calls from opposing counsel saying, your lawyer is da, 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 da. And I'm like, shut up. I will always support my staff because their passion is what keeps me going. At LAFLA, we are so fortunate. A lot of our staff have been here 20, 30, 40 years. And when people ask me, why is that? I'm like, because you fall in love with the place. Because every day we see our clients coming to our doors, we're helping them, we're working with them. And honestly, we are changing their lives. And I think that's the immediate gratification, but it's the long-term changes that we're making that keep us grounded here. We support each other. And I tell you, it is my staff that keeps me going. I've been doing this now for 13 years. And prior to that, I was like, I'm going to be at LAFLA for 2 years when I joined. And then you fall in love with the place, and you fall in love with the work and with our clients. And that's what keeps me going. Challenges, money, always funding, always, always, always funding. We are a legal services corporation funded organization, so we have certain restrictions. And, we've gone through some difficult times, but I think that as long as you keep your eyes on the prize in terms of ensuring that your programs are as best they can be supporting the communities that we serve, and that you have a well-staffed program where people are happy, where you're giving them the salaries, not that they deserve, but what we can give them, because boy, do they deserve a whole lot more. But I think that's a challenge for me. I think also not being too demanding of my staff, because I want a lot of things to happen now, and understanding that they too carry a huge burden, and ensuring that we are taking care of staff. And that comes from the fact that I'm the former union president at LAFLA, one of the former union presidents. And so when I became the director, I told the board, they said, how do you feel about this? It's weird going to the dark side. but here I am. And so I bring all my lessons learned as a union member and a union leader to the caring of staff, because I think that's important. That's how you keep people at the organization. If you don't care about people, they will leave. But if you show them through your actions that you care about them, people stay because they love the work.
And we have one final question. Can you speak more to specific ways that those of us who are doing systems reform work can ensure we are aligned with what is most important and pressing for folks on the ground?
Absolutely. I think, great question. I think you have to talk to your colleagues in legal services programs doing the direct daily services. You know, I came from the ACLU and from MALDIF, and we were doing the systemic work. Even then, I tried to take cases where I would have a lot of client contact, that I would be able to work with community-based organizations, because that's what keeps you grounded. Even at LAFLA, our CBOs, the organizers that we work with in other organizations, they keep us grounded because they are no nonsense. You know, right now we are facing massive tenant harassment, tenant evictions. You all know this in the state of California. The rental assistance program in the state is a mess and stupid and doesn't work. It's kept a lot of low-income people from staying housed. And it's important, I think, for all of us to ensure that if you're doing the more systemic work, that you're touching base with community, whether it's a CBO you work with, organizers, or your direct legal aid partners. It's important that you ensure that you're aligned with what they're doing, because you don't want to be at a policy level up here saying, well, I think this is what should happen. And the community says, you know what, that's not what should happen at all. So that's why at LAFLA I say we practice community lawyering, because we always go to our clients. We have some, you know, impact litigation and policy work that we do. It's always done with an eye to ensuring that our plaintiffs are CBOs in some of the impact work that we're doing in housing, that we are bringing that because that's what the community wants, and that's what the lawyers sat back and said, hey, you know, I saw this problem and I think I should solve it. That's the worst thing you can do. You need to make sure that it's coming from the ground up and not from above. Otherwise, you make terrible friends, you make some enemies, and folks, they won't trust you. And when you lose a community's trust, you can't do the work for them or with them. I hope that answers that.
Thank you so much, Silvia. I want to just encourage everybody again to please show your love for Silvia in the chat. Silvia Argueta, Executive Director of the Legal Aid Foundation of LA and proud NCYL alumna. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. I saw a lot of affirmations in the chat as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Elida. Thank you, Jesse. And thank you, Izzy, for helping me throughout this week.